Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we have the Gameweek 13 deadline stream. So, how are we feeling? There's still 4 hours to go. I think it's the one of the first few midweeks, if I'm not. I think the first midweek game week that we've had this season. So it's just the start. Or sorry, this is not even midweek. It's a Friday, but it feels midweek. I'm thinking about game week 14. Game week 14 will be the midweek game week that we have. I'm already planning for game week 14 content. That's why. But yeah, it's Friday today. So it's a Friday deadline, slightly earlier because of the Brighton and Southampton game. So let's see how that one goes. I obviously don't have any Brighton attackers, but at least I have a Bruggen in goal. We'll speak about my team in a bit. But yeah, how's everyone feeling? Let me know in the chat if you guys are watching. Thank you for those of you who are tuning in early. Crew Ploppy says Sushi definitely tuned into the stream last week where we were speaking about what we should have for dinner. Sushi lover, I see. Le Huang says, who do you pick for captaincy? Yeah, I'll discuss captaincy in a bit. For now, I have it on Cole Palmer. But I know some people are quite keen on Salah. I know people are keen on captaining Salah despite him playing Man City. João Pedro for captaincy, says Crew Ploppy. Optimus Crime says, let's go. How's everyone feeling on a Friday evening? I mean, it's Friday evening here. I think it's early evening in the UK. Where are you guys tuning in from? Joha says, tempted to get João Pedro, but guess it's not worth it this week for a hit in for Wood. Yeah, I mean, definitely not. I'm just going with Chris Wood here against Ipswich. Lots of members in the chat. Nice to see you guys already. Ian, VJ, Toby, very, very familiar names. Thank you guys for tuning into every stream. Oh, I should say as well, before we jump into the stream, I understand content this week has been lacking a little bit, but I have to explain myself. I had a really, really rough week at work this week. There was a lot to be done. And because of that, unfortunately, because FPL content is something I do on the side, so I did not have as much time to make content. But thankfully, the, I guess, peak period is kind of past now. So hopefully next week onwards, especially with the midweek deadline, I'll be able to put out more videos. But at least I managed to put out a transfer plans video this week. So if you haven't caught that one, I kind of discussed a bit of my transfer plans moving forward. But I'll also speak about it in a bit as more people stream in. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that I am aware of the lack of content, but thank you guys for bearing with me, and hopefully content kicks on for next week. Who to captain this week? I think a lot of people are struggling with captaincy. I think it's definitely something that's tricky. I don't think it's straightforward as well. For those who are even captaining Salah, I don't think you're doing it with like 100% certainty. Like, I think putting the armband on Salah when he plays Man City, like no matter how bad they've been, I just feel like something doesn't sit right. Like if I do it, I mean, obviously we have to bear in mind that, you know, fair enough, the stats say that recently Man City have been conceding as much XG as the kind of bottom tier teams, those in the relegation zone. I think in terms of XG conceded, Man City are bottom 3, right, so far. So I do think like in recent game weeks, they've really struggled. And I mean, everything points to the fact that Liverpool is going to demolish them. But I seem to think like it's not going to be a straightforward game. Like maybe it's just, I guess, something in my head telling me that Man City is, you know, not going to be trounced by Liverpool. But yeah, captaincy is just going to be tricky. Even those of you guys who are putting it on Salah, I don't think you are fully settled, I would say. If you're 100% settled on Salah captaincy, let me know in the chat. But if not, I think most of you guys in the chat I see are talking about Palmer captaincy. I think I'm there as well. Saka, I think if I had Saka, I probably would be 60-70% certain that I would captain Saka instead of Palmer. But I mean, I don't have him and I don't have any plans to bring Saka in this week because I've kind of booked in the transfer for Mbumo to Saka next week. So it is what it is. Like, I see some of you guys asking in the chat as well, like, am I not going for Saka? Unfortunately, this week, probably not. Which doesn't sit right. Like, there are two main players this week that I'm really afraid would score very well, and I don't have them, which is Saka and João Pedro. I mean, obviously so, right? Everyone has brought João Pedro in. I think he's risen like at least twice already. I think maybe even 3 times if I count the. Basically, I'm counting from the time that I could have brought him in, which is instead of going for Isak in game week 12, I could have gone for João Pedro. I think since then, I've lost about 0.3. So I don't know. I was just thinking that Isak versus West Ham at home was going to be a better game than João Pedro against Bournemouth away, but obviously that hasn't worked out, right? I'm 10 points down on that. So we'll see what Isak can do against Crystal Palace. But Crystal Palace will have Eberechi Eze coming back. So I don't know. The decision has been made, so I have to sit with it. But I will have a chance to again bring João Pedro in for Chris Wood in game week 14. So that's part of the transfer plans in a bit. Ian says Friday gotta get down on Friday. Palmer captaincy. Let's do a captaincy poll in a bit. Vivek says remove Rodgers or Semenyo for Saka. I wouldn't be keen on selling Semenyo, to be fair, especially now that he's got his suspension. I know he'll be good from game week 14 all the way, and I guess in terms of just XG he's accumulated over the last few game weeks, it's a lot more consistent than Morgan Rodgers. I feel like the numbers for Semenyo, in terms of XG at least, are just better for Semenyo in terms of an average per 90. So I'm a little bit more, I guess, keen on selling Rodgers if you guys are in a position where you want to sell one for Saka. Right? Semenyo is someone that I would keep. I just like the fact that he takes a lot of shots for Bournemouth. So I think his goal threat is a little bit better. Travelin says, I could see Brighton getting 3 or 4 goals, so I'm happy to have Welbeck. Fair enough. Also, I think the Welbeck versus João Pedro, I guess, swing, for some of you guys who went for Welbeck, seems a bit, I guess, quite a bit of variance there, because I still do think like Welbeck is a decent enough option. Like, we've already seen that João Pedro, minutes-wise, is the one that's taken off earlier. And I already knew that would be the case because he hasn't played 90 minutes. So I doubt he would get 90 minutes against Bournemouth. That's why I didn't bring him in. Obviously, he goes on to get a goal as well as an assist and bonus points in the, I guess, 65 minutes that he was on the pitch. So I think hindsight, I would still have made the same decision to go for Isak, who played 90 minutes against West Ham. But now moving forward, I still think they will manage his minutes. So yeah, I mean, Welbeck versus João Pedro. I'll look at it again next week when I look at my Chris Wood replacements. Very, very nice. Lots of you guys watching internationally. Thoughts on João Pedro as captain? I don't mind it. But I would say that if there was a week that you could maybe have a little bit more confidence on going different, it would be this week. I don't think there would be a clear captaincy option. Even like, I don't know, Salah captain and Palmer captain, for example, or even Saka captain, I think is going to be quite evenly split. So yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, Ian and Toby. Yeah, I mean, gotta do what I gotta do. Hopefully, I mean, let's see. Quit my job and be a full-time FPL YouTuber. We'll see where the channel goes. I think for now, unlikely, but let's see. If I get to 100,000 subscribers, maybe we'll maybe we'll consider that. But it seems like a distant future away, at least. Um, will Lewis Dunk start? Lewis Dunk is fine. Lewis Dunk is fine. So my guess is he would. My guess is he would. Solanke to João Pedro for -4. I don't think it's necessary this week. I think it's fine to play Solanke. It's just something that I don't think it's necessary. But then again, João Pedro is someone you're going to transfer in for a very long time. So if you feel like you want to catch that João Pedro haul, for example, I wouldn't put you off it. It's just something I wouldn't do myself. Thoughts on Dibbling Gameweek 14? To transfer in, I mean, I would never look at Southampton players to transfer in now. Would be more of an enabler at least. BJ says not settled on anyone, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, captaincy this week is just super all over the place. So many questions on captaincy this week. Ian says right now captain is on Cunha. Probably will change to Palmer for the deadline. Yeah. You start out wanting to captain a differential, and then when a popular captain emerges, we just tend towards that. I think it takes a certain type of FPL manager to just be very confident in captaining a differential. I just can't find myself doing it unless it's one of these kind of game weeks where there's no clear-cut captain. If not, every other week I'm happy to just go with the player who is most likely to score the most points, and technically that's why everyone is, going for that player. Don't have Palmer, don't have Saka. I mean, I don't have Saka, and at this point, I mean, I'm probably gonna get behind the couch if the Arsenal game starts. I have to get behind the couch. Who to start, Johnson or Rogers? Johnson. Should I sell Smith Rowe? I don't think he's an urgent sell. And who are you transferring in? I mean, at this point, I think the issue right now is that there's not a lot of players to buy. Like, I think at this point, I think in defense, there are a couple of good options. But Konate right now plays Man City, and then he's also yellow flag. We don't really know. I think that's the conundrum I face this week, which is why I'm likely going to roll as well. Like, even if I replace Rogers, for example, who else am I going to go for? I can't reach Saka because I don't have enough money in the bank. Up front, the forwards are fine. In defense, my defense is fine, but I've looked at a couple of defensive options. If I were to replace Rico Lewis on the bench and then start that defender instead and bench Rogers, that's also one of my alternatives. But who am I going to buy? Now, I look at, for example, Newcastle defense, and Lewis Hall. I don't know, Trippier is back now. Is Lewis Hall going to start every single game? And the Newcastle defense is just up and down, up and down. Like, I can't really trust them. I'm already doubled up on Arsenal. In future, what I want to see my defense look like is double Arsenal defense plus Konate. And I have Verbruggen in goal. I'm perfectly fine with that. So I'm just waiting it out. So because of that, I don't see any clear-cut options to buy. And I think that's very similar in the midfield as well. Of course, aside from the fact that all the premiums are popular right now. So if you are selling, for example, Rogers to get to a premium, then obviously that makes the most sensible move. But if not everyone else, like, who would you be selling them for? Like Smith Rowe, you're selling him for, I don't know, Garnacho, for example. Is that very attractive as a move for the long term? Craig Boy says, Leona got destroyed last week. 75k down to 450k, 23 points. doubling down on Haaland. Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, for those of you guys who held on to Haaland, I think the variance just has been absolutely brutal. Sorry, the mic's just gone there. Yeah, I think the variance has been absolutely brutal. I I think XG wise as well, Haaland has been getting the chances. Like, just think about it for a second. Like, if what happened in the Champions League midweek happened in the Premier League, I think the whole FPL community would be thinking differently. And the fact of the matter is that it could very well have been the case. It could have very well been the case that Haaland scored 2 goals and Salah blanked back in game week 12. Like, okay, maybe Salah doesn't blank because he plays Southampton in game week 12, but Haaland could have scored 2 goals against Spurs, for example. Right? I mean, they didn't play well, but thinking back, like, it's possible, right? And you look at Champions League, Haaland scores a penalty and he also scores from open play. There's 2 goals. Salah misses a penalty. Like, if that had happened, my point is just to say that if it happened in the Premier League, I think we would be having a very different conversation. And it's not as if it's not possible that it happens in the Premier League instead of the Champions League. Cunha or Palmer for captain? I have it on Palmer for now. So I would say Palmer. Not confident on playing Fernandes. Should I bench Fernandes and play Vissa? I mean, I can't see myself benching Fernandes against Everton, right, at home. Like, I don't think that's a fixture that you bench Fernandes in. But what I will say is that maybe after the Everton game, you could look to sell him because he looked very, very deep in the Champions League game. He was playing a role that is, I guess, not as ideal for FPL points because he sat much deeper, and the ones who were further forward was Mount on the right, Garnacho on the left, Højlund up front. So I don't think it's a case where you're going to need Fernandes from after game week 14 onwards, and he takes up quite a bit of cash. So Marcus says, I'm going Palmer captain, playing at home, full rest midweek. Other options are either playing away or played midweek. Yeah, fair enough as well. Ian says, got to get that sweet sponsorship to go full time on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, still far away at least. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy enough with what we have right now. Like, every week I get to stream to you guys, play FPL along with you. I mean, at this point, it's really not about, going full time or not about the money or whatever. It's just about making content, enjoying the game with everyone, and we'll see what happens. Salah will never darken the doors of my team's personal now. I'll die on my grave. Jimenez to João Pedro for a -4. That one feels a little bit more tempting than Solanke to João Pedro for a -4. Mitoma for Semenyo, I don't think it's a need. And on Mitoma as well, like, would you rather spend 6.5 on Mitoma or 5.7 or 5.6 on João Pedro? I think I prefer João Pedro. Just ride it out with Semenyo on the bench, and then you can start him from next week onwards. Best defender to buy. That's the issue with this week. Like, I don't think there's really a best defender to buy. Like, none of them really stand out to me. Like, if you're buying a defender this week, let me know who you're buying. I'd be keen to know. Is Konate injured for this game week? He's yellow flag at the moment, so I think we'll have to see. But it did look like he was limping quite a bit. Towards the end of the game. So, the Champions League game, of course. So you're not captaining Salah. Yeah, I mean, I have it on Palmer for now. But let's put up a captaincy poll. I want to know who you guys are captaining. Right. Drop it in the chat. Before I do the poll, drop in the chat who you guys are captaining for now, so that I can see who are the popular captaincy options. I'm going to guess it's Salah, Palmer, Mbumo, Saka. Like, outside of these 4 options, who else would you be captaining? Cunha, João Pedro? Let me know. Thank you very much for the super chat, VJ. The charity drive is done now. But I can put this donation to the next charity drive that we do, for sure. Only 20 likes. If you guys haven't liked the stream yet, let me check it out. 26 likes. If you guys haven't dropped a like on the stream, please drop a like so that we can get the stream to more people. That would be lovely. One free transfer. Trent to Virgil straight away for tonight's deadline, or roll and do Trent to Virgil and Mbumo to Saka for next game week. Okay, for what it's worth, I think Trent is going to play this week because Connor Bradley is not going to be available for the Man City game. So Trent comes back in, and then I think you reassess after that. Pedro or Salah captain? Do you think Pedro will score enough? Have a feeling he'll be subbed off early. I think that's the issue with João Pedro captaincy, right? Like, he is almost definitely going to be taken off early. So would you be happy enough captaining João Pedro for 70 or maximum 75 minutes against Southampton? Or would you rather take a 90-minute player? That one is down to your own preference. Why not Saka captain? If I had Saka, I think I'd be likely to captain Saka. Like, that's why I'm asking you guys, who are you guys captaining? Salah, GV says Salah, Palmer says Salah / Saka. That's interesting. Palmer isn't even captaining himself. Who do you bench out of Mbumo, Saka, Salah, Palmer, Bruno, and Jackson? Wow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'd actually start all of them. I start all of them. Who else are you benching for those players? I see Salah. I see quite a bit of Salah. I see João Pedro as well. Lionel says, anyone else thinking of captaining Nicholas Jackson? Mega differential there. That's an outside shot for sure. Who should I replace, Bruno or Mbumo for Saka? And is it worth to take a -4 for it in game week 14? Like, my issue with Saka in game week 14, which I think I haven't really settled on as well, is that he plays Manchester United at home. I don't know whether necessarily that is a bad or a good thing, because it's uncertain right now how Manchester United are going to fare for the next few games, because they're obviously under new management now. But at least from what I've seen from the first few games they've played, their defense is definitely not one that is watertight. And if Arsenal do get something, you would expect Saka to get something as well. So in that case, maybe it's not so bad to sell someone like Bruno Fernandes and get Bukayo Saka despite him playing Manchester United. So I guess point is to say in game week 14, I probably still do Mbumo to Saka. João Pedro. I see lots of João Pedro. Reasons are for Brighton, many guys can score. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. Who would you bench? Saka, Mbumo, Palmer, Son, Salah, Cunha, Wood, João Pedro. What a team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What a team. Get the bench boost out. Saka, Mbumo, Palmer, Son, Salah, Cunha, Wood, João Pedro. Whew. I don't think I've seen a better front 8. Honestly speaking, though, who would you even bench in that? Has to come down to either one of. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but it's one of the forwards, right? Should I get Veltman? I think I prefer either one of Dunk or Van Heck. Gabriel says Jackson is a great idea. I have Ahmad and Rogers as a rotation. Will Ahmad start this week? Can't say for sure. There's no certainty with Manchester United players aside from Bruno Fernandes. What do you think of Odegaard as a replacement for Mbumo? I took Raya out to create a space for him. So my thoughts on Odegaard is that I think over the next few game weeks, you will see him get returns. So the main question I would ask myself if I can get my words out, the main question I would ask myself is, would you think that spending an extra 2 million on Saka is going to get you the corresponding more points than if you go for Odegaard? Because my own thoughts is that if I do spend the extra 2 million, I think I would get more points than if I went for Odegaard and spend that 2 million elsewhere. So it's a bit confusing, but basically what I'm trying to say is that I think going for Saka, who's 2 million more expensive, is better than settling for someone like Odegaard now. So if you can't reach Saka this game week, my suggestion is not to go for Odegaard, to wait it out until you have enough money to get Saka, because I think in the longer term, Saka is going to score more points. Captain Wood, like there's so many differential captains. I don't even know how to make the captaincy poll, but let's try it. Let's try it. So I'm gonna put the most popular ones. Who are you captaining for game week 13? I'm gonna put Salah because I think despite the Man City fixture, there's still a number of people captaining Salah. I'm gonna put Saka next. Okay, I'm gonna put Saka and Palmer in the same category. Then I'm gonna have an option for the differential captainers out there. I'm gonna put João Pedro and Cunha in the same category. / Mbumo as well. Okay, I'm gonna put other. So what I've done is I think I've grouped them in terms of, I think it's gonna be quite interesting. I've grouped them in terms of how differential I think people want to go. I would say Salah is still the default. Then I have in the second option Saka and Palmer, which I think is the next tier. And then there's João Pedro, Cunha, and Mbumo for those of you wanting to go extra differential. So let's see. I mean, this is going to be very, very interesting. Can we get down to 75 likes? We are on 38 likes right now. There's about 125 of you guys watching. If you guys haven't liked the stream yet, please do drop a like. It really, really helps the YouTube algorithm. Had Saka captain all week, but thinking about going for Palmer captain. Saka has 3 assists in 5 away games versus 4 goals and 5 assists at home. Yeah, I've seen this stat on Saka that seems to show that he performs better at home than he does away. I mean, the data points to that. So for those of you who like to rely on data, at least that's what it shows. The converse is also true for Cole Palmer, that he's done very, very well at home as opposed to away from home. I think at home, he's only blanked against Man City and Arsenal. Let's have a look. So at home, he blanked against Man City in game week 1. Then he had the Crystal Palace game where he got 1 assist. The Brighton game was the game he scored 4 goals. Absolutely insane. Nottingham Forest, he also got 1 assist there. Newcastle game, he scored a goal, 3 bonus as well. And then it's the Arsenal game that he blanked. So far at home, he's only blanked when he's played Arsenal and Man City in game week 1, when Man City was still good. So yeah, I mean, I'm quite comfortable captaining Palmer. All the other outside reasons as well, right? Like him getting a rest midweek, Saka playing against Sporting, etc. GV says, will contract extension coming out in the open affect Salah's goal scoring? I mean, it doesn't seem as if it's affecting him that much. Like, Liverpool played really well against Real Madrid midweek, and I think Salah played perfectly well as well. It's just he didn't score the penalty, right? But if he did, I think it's just status quo for him. But then again, I guess you could say that, maybe the contract talks were weighing on his mind. But honestly, I think he'll function just fine. Like, he's a professional. I don't think it'd be weighing too much on him. BJ has decided on Saka. 47 votes. And as expected, Salah, Saka, and Palmer, the three of them still have majority of the votes. Rashar says, I need to bench one out of Mbumo, Saka, Salah, Palmer, Bruno, Jackson, Cunha, and Pedro. Wow. Can't bench João Pedro. Can't. Honestly speaking, who can you bench out of that? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Who can you bench in that situation? Who are you thinking of benching? If I was in your spot, very, very, very tricky. Usually, I'd say just bench the cheapest player and you feel the best about it. But it's João Pedro in this case, and you're never benching João Pedro. I mean, I honestly don't even know. Like for those of you in the chat, if you have this kind of a team, who would you be benching? I'm honestly lost there. Like, there's so many good players. Mbumo, Saka. Okay, the premiums definitely cannot be benched. Mbumo has Leicester. It's a great fixture. Bruno has Everton at home. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. I'm doing Mbumo to Bowen in Gameweek 14. No money for getting Saka. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, we're looking at options like Bowen, Gordon. I'll be honest, they don't really feel to me as... I mean, I could be wrong, but they don't feel to me as picks that would be worth the money we're paying for them longer term. They're not exactly super cheap as well. Captaining Salah or probably Saka. Fair enough. Chad Scott says, Rogers, Semenyo, or Smith Rowe to Saka. Should I be concerned with losing value on a player? I think losing value on players just happens once in a while. It's perfectly fine. But Smith Rowe to Saka is probably what I do. Rogers and Semenyo moving forward have pretty decent enough fixtures. Killcheck says, should I start Rogers or bench Rogers and take a hit for Saka, and why? If you can reach Saka with a hit, I don't mind it. But on the flip side as well, like, you look at my team, I'm perfectly fine with starting Rogers and doing without Saka for one more game week. So I think it really depends on who else you are starting as well. Like, aside from Rogers, like, how else does your team look like? All the best to you too, K7. Already have Saka, thinking of adding Odegaard. So I would say that I prefer double defense than I do double attack. So I wouldn't go Saka and Odegaard. Any plans to get Lewis out of your team? So for next week, the plan is actually to sell, if I do make a defensive transfer, the plan is to sell Aina instead of Rico Lewis. But again, Lewis is someone that I have to deal with like sooner rather than later. But I think I would deal with Aina first because the fixtures are really quite bad from 14 onwards. Like, the fixtures are genuinely quite bad. So I would be doing without Aina for a while. The thing with Man City is fixtures actually start to get slightly better for them. Like they have Nottingham Forest. I mean, Nottingham Forest is an easy fixture, but it's at home. Then it's Crystal Palace away. After the Manchester United and Aston Villa game, then they go on a decent enough run for a pretty long time. So somehow, if I reach a point where I need to start Rico Lewis, and if the defense starts to pick up, I mean, now it's like, it seems like a bit of a joke, but later down the line, you never know what happens, and they turn their form around, then maybe having Lewis is not the worst thing in the world. So I'm keeping it flexible, and I still think like Aina is the one I would sell. I want to get to Konate for this position so that I can have Verbruggen, Konate, Saliba, and Gabriel for all the way until January, I think. So that's going to be the plan. That is going to be the plan. Salah all the way. Salah 42% now. It's incredible because I'm bunching players together. Like I'm bunching Saka and Palmer, and I'm also, bunching João Pedro, Cunha, and Mbumo all together, and still that can't even, beat Salah as a captain. That's kind of showing us. I mean, it's not super indicative of the whole FPL community, but we can just already see certain trends forming, and people are fine to captain Salah against Man City. It seems like that is still going to be the way to go for some people. High pick one, Vissa or Isak or Wood. I'm bench boosting and considering removing Isak, and I think Vissa will do well this week. Walt cut it last week, and I have a very strong team. I don't think I would sell Isak for Vissa. I wouldn't do that. And if your team is good enough and you want to bench boost, I mean, fair enough, but usually you would save it for double game weeks. But that said, single game weeks can work well as well, so I'll leave it up to you. Villa could be right for the taking. They seem to be like that after the Champions League games this season. Fair enough. Good point. 8 Nuri, Aina, Gabriel, Trent, bench 1. I want to say Trent. I want to say bench Trent. For what it's worth, I think he'll start though, but I mean, it's Man City. Happy to play 8 Nuri against Bournemouth for that one. Kulusevski in and Smith Rowe out to bench Rodgers and play Kulu. Would you be happy to keep Kulu for the long term? If the answer is yes, then fair enough. Are you buying João Pedro? Not this week. If I do buy him, probably I'll do it next week. Sid says, Welbeck or Pedro, please let me know. If I have to choose one, it's still going to be João Pedro. Easy as day, that one. At least for this week. And I think for the longer term as well, it's just that you want Pedro. Good captain, Palmer. I can't really understand that one. Good captain, Palmer. I won't. We are on the same points. I overtake like Haaland will deliver. Gotta retype that one. I don't really understand. Flecken, Evan Nielsen, 8 Nuri, and Burgess good enough for a bench boost this week. I think you can do better than that bench. Later game weeks. I don't think it's worth a bench boost. Bruno is playing deeper. Yep, fair enough. Palmer loves hiding deep 10 as well. I mean, all this is coming up, right? But the fact of the matter is that over the past few, I guess, home games, there have been times he's dropped deep as well, but that hasn't really stopped him from getting returns in the home games at least. I'm very, very far behind the chat. Let me just. Thanks for all the interactions, by the way. Appreciate you guys sending in your questions in the chat. Let me just speed up on them. I'm very, very far behind. Salah doesn't like to go without a goal in back-to-back games. All the narratives are coming out now. I don't trust anyone apart from Salah to haul, so I will captain him. City look like Southampton at the moment. Aina Vandenberg and Hall bench one. I think it'd be Vandenberg. I would start Aina and Lewis Hall and drop Vandenberg down. Best defender pick this week. Like if I was seriously buying one this week, I think a Brighton defender is the best way to go. The only issue is that I have Verbruggen already, but if I didn't have Verbruggen, I think I would go for someone like Van Heck or Lewis Dunk. I think Saka is a must. Saka is a must versus West Ham. I mean, I essentially took that option out of my hands when I went for Saliba, which I think I'm still fine with. Because if I hadn't gone for Saliba in game week 12, if I had gone for... I'm lagging a little bit. I think I feel like the computer is going to crash in a bit, but hopefully it doesn't. But basically, when I went for Saliba, I essentially locked myself out of going something like Rodgers to Saka, which I was fine with because I want to sell Mbumo for Saka. I'm happy to have Rodgers and Semenyo for the next few game weeks, but that's kind of a choice I made that I wouldn't get Saka versus West Ham away. But you know, it is what it is. I probably wouldn't go there. So I don't think it's a must have, but it'd be obviously feeling very good if you guys have Saka. Yeah, Konate is flagged at the moment. Salah or Palmer captain? I have it on Palmer at the moment. What about captaining Jackson? I just prefer to captain penalty takers, I guess. Ian says, I've changed my captaincy to Palmer. Too chicken to keep it as Cunha. Yeah, that's always how it happens. Also, Konate has 4 yellows. Yeah, I mean, that's something else that you'll have to bear in mind as well. But I don't think that's going to make me go for Van Dijk instead of Konate. And that's the thing, right? If I have Lewis on the bench there, then at least some games moving forward later down the line, like I wouldn't mind having to play Lewis against, I don't know, say for example, Konate gets the 5th yellow in, I don't know, game week 18, for example. Would I really mind if I play Rico Lewis against Everton? I think I'm fine with that, which is, I guess, one of the reasons why I don't mind just selling Aina first, and then we'll see what happens with the Man City players. Timber is a decent enough option as well. But is he going... I mean, he looks really good, and I don't think he will be dropped. It's just a question of whether you're going to see early subs for him. Say, for example, before 60 minutes. Like, would that happen when games come thick and fast? Is it a week to make luxury transfers? Would you do either Mbumo to Saka or Wood to João Pedro? Nah, I don't think this is a week that I would do that. Neither of those moves. Neither of those moves. Yeah, Timber delivering dangerous passes into the box. He got an assist in the Champions League, I think. Really, really good. He looks very threatening from right back. How's the marriage prep going? It's going great. It's going great. We are getting things done leading up to. I mean, we're taking it slow. We're taking it slow, and yeah, it's coming along very nicely. Thanks for checking in. Jackson has 4 yellows, so he will definitely miss a game somewhere. I think that was one of the main reasons I didn't go for Jackson. But you see there that I've already missed out on points, so. Captain for João Pedro, let's see. I mean, João Pedro, Cunha, and Mbumo, 17%. The majority are still going to Captain Salah. I think this week is just a case of whether you are happy to not captain Salah. If you're happy enough to do that, then I think anyone else has a decent enough chance to haul, to be fair. Right, I'm lagging quite a bit, so I apologize for that. Hopefully we'll sort it out for the next stream. The computer is overheating, it seems. I'm not sure if I can fix it. Let me just have a look. Let me see how we can make the stream a bit laggy. If you guys are seeing the stream lagging quite a bit, let me know. Okay. Let me just try and fix it while we're on stream. I don't know whether it will affect the stream, but let's see. Right, so I'm gonna go quiet for a bit, but it's basically I am trying to fix the lagging issue. Seems like everything's fine though. All right, I think I'll fix it after the stream. I can't really do much about it now, but hopefully it doesn't affect our stream too much. I'll fix it after the stream. All right. Again, I'm lagging behind the chat again. Why Palmer is the preferred captain? Thought process. I guess if you really want me to list out the different reasons, I mean, because based off of currently what I'm thinking, firstly, he's playing at home. I don't think it's much different for the other captains like Salah and Mbumo, but at least for Saka versus Palmer, Saka is playing away from home and Palmer is playing at home. And then when I look at the other captaincy options, say Salah versus Palmer, then Salah has played midweek, Palmer has had a full rest. And then it's the other things as well, right? Like Palmer only blanking at home against Arsenal and Man City. Aside from that, he's always returned. And then Aston Villa seem to be there for the taking after Champions League games because they're quite fatigued as well. So I think for me, it just points to I just prefer captaining Palmer instead of Salah. And I still think it doesn't sit right with me. Like maybe I would die on this hill alone, but it doesn't sit right with me to captain Salah against Man City at home. Maybe it's a bit of gut feel as well, but it just doesn't sit right with me. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. For what it's worth, Salah's going to get a penalty against Man City and he's going to do very well. Right, yeah, I mean, lagging a little bit, not lagging at times. I'll get it fixed. I'll get it fixed. I apologize for that, for sure. We will fix the stream for the next one. Especially there's lots of deadlines coming up. Like next week there's a midweek one, and then next weekend as well there's another stream. So gotta get the computer fixed. Palmer captain, Salah captain. City City look like Luton Town at the moment. This one's new. Anybody selling Bruno ahead of Everton? Don't think I would do that if I had Bruno. For those of you who just joined the stream, I know I'm lagging a little bit here and there. I'm gonna fix it the next stream. Yeah, I mean, you sell Bruno next week, right? Like Reese Holland says, Bruno getting sold next week for me. He's playing too deep. Like, fair enough. But I don't think you sell him against Everton, right? I think you sell him next week. What do you think of Saka over Garnacho for a -4? I think I'm happy to play Garnacho against Everton this week. Unless you're captaining Saka. Right. The chat has gone. Oh my days. Gotta get a new computer. All right. Where was I? Yeah, don't sell Bruno. I wouldn't sell Bruno this week. I know he's playing D, but don't sell him this week. Nathan, what's for dinner tonight? Back with the dinner questions. Took a -4 for Pedro and Saka. What do you reckon? I think in combination, those moves look fine to me. In combination, those moves look fine. What's for dinner tonight? Like, you would be happy to know that, I mean, it's late at night now in Singapore, but you'll be happy to know that for dinner, I had sushi. I genuinely had sushi. Don't mind if Salah scores, just not more than Palmer. I'm in the same boat. All it takes is a penalty, and Bruno can get 10 points. But I mean, that can be said for every penalty taker, right? Are West Ham improving, or were they fortunate? I think that's the thing we won't know, right? They're so inconsistent this season. Your moves this week, probably to roll, start with Rodgers. Next week, I'll have a decision to make whether... Right. Let me pull up the planner. Pull up the FPL planner. Okay, so hope you guys can see the screen. Yeah, all right, it's loading fine. So next week for game week 13, sorry, 14. What am I even saying? Right, so for game week 14, Flecken in goal, definitely not going to be the case. It's going to be Verbruggen. In defense, it's Saliba and Gabriel. Funnily enough, right, I'm still happy starting both of them. It's Manchester United, but then it's Arsenal at the Emirates, so I'm happy to start both of them. Rico Lewis against Nottingham Forest is really not the worst thing in the world. So for now, the plan is actually to go Mbumo out and Chris Wood out for Saka and João Pedro. This is actually my plan for next week. Start João Pedro instead of Semenyo. Either that or start João Pedro instead of Isak, but then Newcastle play at St. James's Park. Right, so, but at least for now, the plan is to bring Saka and João Pedro in game week 14. Defenders wise, I can choose to start Rico Lewis, or I can start Greaves. Or I can start Greaves instead of Rico Lewis. So I have options, basically. I have options in defense. So that's why I'm kind of not as inclined to make a defensive move. Like, I'm happy enough to just make 2 attacking changes, and then come game week 15, this is when I can make a defensive transfer if I really want to, and take Aena out, right? And then Rico, but you see, Rico Lewis also has a good fixture, right? So that's why I say it really depends on what I feel about the Manchester City defense moving forward. Does it change? Does it get better? And the window to get Liverpool defenders is also now in game week 15. So if push comes to shove and I really don't like Rico Lewis and he goes out for Konate as well, I have a 6.2, I have more than enough money for that. All right, so at least for now, that is my plan. That is my plan for now. I feel like I need to captain Mbumo this week because I plan on selling him next game week. I don't think that would be the thinking, though. I think the captaincy decision should always be, who do you think is going to score the most points this week? Instead of, I'm going to captain him because I'm going to sell him next week. João Pedro for captaincy, why not? Again, if you feel like he's going to be the best captain this week, fair enough. This is the week to go different. 46% of people are going Salah captain. Fair enough. Fair enough. Like, I wouldn't put you guys off it because I can honestly understand the reason for that. I can understand the reason for that, but I just can't see. I mean, I'm going to. You guys are gonna clip this and you can tag me in on Instagram, on Twitter. But it doesn't sit right with me that I'm captaining Salah against Man City. Obviously, what's going to happen now is he's going to score a hat-trick against Man City. And I'm going to not get the points. Who do I go for? Salah's mum or Haaland's grandma? Probably Chris Wood's cousin, to be honest. Sold Haaland, I guess. Sold Haaland and Semenyo for Salah and João Pedro. I guess those are good moves. With selling Haaland, what I would say is that the longer you delay the move, like if you do it in game week 14 when he has Nottingham Forest, or you do it in game week 15 when he has Crystal Palace, it's going to look less and less of a move that makes sense. So it's either you do it now, whether it's for a hit or not. I think it's either you do it now or you just wait until, or maybe even you just sit with him. Like that's the thing. You gotta be decisive, I guess, on the squad structure that you want. And I think that was what pushed me to sell Salah in game week 12. It's more, not so much about, because I think Salah is going to score more than Haaland last week. I think it was closer than it turned out to be. But it was more that moving forward, the structure that I wanted was one without Haaland. And yeah, I mean, it's worked out well for game week 12. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I think it's going to work out much better. I think it's going to be closer than it seems right now. Is Cunha as a captain a calculated risk or a plain risk? I mean, a couple of ways you can spin it, right? Like Bournemouth away from home haven't been that good. Cunha has been on fire. Doesn't matter his expected data, he's been outscoring it. So, I mean, you look at the last few game weeks, his returns have been absolutely ridiculous. Like it's 1 goal, 1 assist against Southampton, 2 goals, 1 assist against Fulham. Like absolutely crazy. And he's one of those bonus points magnets as well. So, I mean, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that Cunha as a differential captain is up there as one of the, if I was chasing rank, for example, or if I want to go different and not Captain Palmer, not Captain Salah, I think Cunha, João Pedro, even Mbeumo would be up there as differential captain options for me. I would say it's a calculated risk. I wouldn't say it's a plain risk. Like a plain risk is captaining someone that is just absolutely out of the dark, like no real justifications for it. But Cunha, at least you have a couple of reasons why you would do it. Are you from Singapore? Yes, I am from Singapore. Mum of Salah or Haaland's grandma? Lots of these tricky questions coming up right now. I can't even advise. 60 likes. Are we on 60 likes right now? 64 likes. If you guys just joined the stream, welcome. Please do drop a like in the stream if you haven't already. It will help us to get to more people. Do you think a -4 hit is worth it for Jimenez to João Pedro? I'd say yes. I'd say yes because longer term, I think it pays off. Man City versus Liverpool has always been a big match, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends 0-0. All right, I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think it will be 0-0. I completely agree it's going to be a big game. I think it's going to largely come down to how Pep is going to set up. If he decides, because we've seen it before, I think we've seen it in the kind of, 0-0 games where Man City played Liverpool last time and it was quite cagey, it was 0-0. Those kind of setups did see City play slightly less attacking. I wouldn't even say more defensive because that wasn't really how they set up, but they played less attacking than they usually would. And obviously now things are a lot different because Rodri is not in the squad. The team structure, everything is changing. The personnel is also different. But I do think like it's going to largely, again, coming back to the point, is that I think it's going to depend on whether Pep decides that he's going to go for it, go all out, leave the space at the back for Salah to counter, for, I don't know, Luis Diaz if he's on the other flank to counter. Like if that is the case, then we're going to see a goal fest because City just haven't been able to just keep the goals out. Right, so I think the City versus Liverpool game is going to come down to a lot of how Pep decides he's going to. We already know how Liverpool's going to play, right? So if City play in any way that they've set up the last few games, it's going to be a goal fest. Isak to João Pedro for a hit, definitely not. Salah has 7 goals and 4 assists in 14 appearances against Man City in the Premier League in his career. It's not that he hasn't done well against City in the past. I know he has done. To be fair, Salah has done decently well against the big 6 teams. So it's just about whether I think against City, Salah is going to score more points than Palmer against Villa. And for now, I still land on Palmer. Maybe I'll shift the vice captaincy to Salah. See how I feel about that. But maybe I'll shift the vice captaincy to Salah. But I think that's probably I don't think it makes a huge difference as well. Because the captains, that like Palmer is definitely going to play. Keep Isak this week or sell him for a hit. Definitely keep. Definitely keep. Paul says, hi Leon. Own Saka, Salah, Bruno, Cunha, João Pedro, and Jackson. Captain a real headache. Have it on Saka at present. I think if I had Saka, I would be quite keen to captain him. It would be close between him and Palmer. But then now looking at it, I said 60-40 just now. Like 60 for Saka and 40 for Palmer. But I think now as I think about it, I think it's closer than that. It's probably 50-50 now. I will still have Saka and Palmer ahead of Salah as my captaincy options this week. But what do I know, right? What do I know? 45% of you guys are captaining Salah. These few days have been really cold. Did that influence your decision in any way? That's a fantastic question. I say probably not. Can we get to 100 likes? We are on 73 likes. We're on 73 likes. So if you guys haven't haven't liked yet, I'm sure you guys have already put someone as your captain. But if you haven't liked the stream yet, please do drop a like. That would be very, very much appreciated. And also, I just want to thank you guys who are watching. There's 189 of you. And it's a Friday deadline. I don't think we've had this big of a turnout on Friday. So thank you if you guys are watching. Really appreciate your presence here. A random penguin says, hey FPL Consult, why no one captaining Cunha? He got 34 points in the last 3 games. It's again just a question, right, of who do you think scores the most points? And some people think that Palmer is going to score more points than Cunha this week, or Salah is going to score more points than Cunha. I think that's the fun thing about FPL, right? The fun thing about FPL is that everyone's going to have their own opinions, and at the end of the day, come the deadline, you will have, whether or not it was influenced by anyone, the captain that you land on is just going to explain the kind of manager you are, and then if it pays off, it's going to feel really good, right? Whoever you go for. So that's, I guess, the fun thing. Like, at the end of the day, I share what I think, but I really hope that, you guys, obviously, I think you guys do, like, make your own decisions, and then if it pays off, the game becomes so much more fun for you guys as well. So I think that's the fun part about FPL. And right now, this game week, because captaincy is so split, I think it's a great time for people to just express themselves in terms of captaincy choices, if that even makes sense. Then I guess on the not second point, but the larger picture in terms of selecting your 15 players in the squad, I would say that for those who are still holding on to Haaland, you would be a certain type of manager as well. And those who have already shifted to Salah, I would imagine you are also a certain type of FPL manager. Like, I don't think there's a clear-cut strategy, basically. Like, even if you hold on to Haaland now, I think longer term, Like, trust me, a couple game weeks down the road, if Haaland gets a couple of goals, things are going to change very quickly. So there's not going to be a clear-cut strategy. So play it your way, captain who you want to captain, and have fun with the game. I can't believe how people are not looking at Pedro. He's playing Southampton, the worst defense in the league. I mean, all right, I'll speak for myself, but it's not that I haven't looked at Pedro. I just don't think it's worth selling Pedro for, I don't know, sorry, selling Isak or Chris Wood for João Pedro. Right? I don't think it's worth. I know Southampton is a great fixture, but I don't think that Ipswich at home is a bad fixture for Wood. Neither is Crystal Palace away for Isak. So I've looked at him and I will bring him probably next week. And I imagine that some people will also be in similar situations as mine. Sell Rodgers or Semenyo for Saka. I would sell Rodgers. Keep Semenyo on your bench and then play him from Gameweek 14 onwards. Ramadian says, hi Leon, shall I go -4 for Saka or for Van Heck? I think the -4 is more worth it if you go for an attacker. So the -4 would be more worth it if you go for Saka. Remove Semenyo or Rodgers for Saka. I would sell Rodgers for Saka and bench Semenyo. Sell Trent or Rico Lewis. I would sell. It depends. If you need the money and it gives you upgrades elsewhere, I think selling Trent is more worth it because he frees up more, I guess, better options in the other positions in your team. But in terms of who's going to score more points, like Lewis or Trent, I would say I put my money on Trent this week. So it depends. It depends on your future plans. Konate out for 6 weeks. Is that real? Let me have a look. Konate out for 6 weeks. Is that real? Oh my days. Okay, I have to share this because it's come up during the stream. Thanks for pointing out. Konate is out for 6 weeks. Shocker that I thought that he was going to be. That changes things. Like, that seriously changes things. Right, I'm gonna show it to you guys. Like, Konate is going to miss 5 to 6 weeks through injury. Man. Oof. What do we think about this? It's going to affect the Liverpool defense and how appealing it is to go for defensive options. Any love for Joe Gomez? Any love for Joe Gomez? Wow. Thanks for pointing out Nathan in the chat. Appreciate that. Kwanzaa. Time for Kwanzaa. Surely not. Do I take a -4 for Haaland and Semenyo to Jackson and Salah? This is tricky. I think it depends on the structure that you want moving forward. Again, I'll bring it back to the point. I think it depends on the structure you want long term. Madison in place of Bruno, what's your thoughts? I think I would have stuck with Bruno this week. Mazraoui or Gabriel, prefer Gabriel. And I think Gabriel would be fine this week based on it's not any insider info or what. It's just based off of him coming off and then, having a laugh with the other players on the bench. Like, it doesn't seem as if it's super serious. Stan Kamas says, hi Leon, changed my name for easier pronunciation. Well, thank you. What do you think of the idea next week, please? Odegaard, Fernandes out, Saka plus Kudus on a cheaper option in. I don't really like Kudus. I'll be honest. I don't really like Kudus. But Fernandez out makes sense next week. And Saka in makes sense. Odegaard out for a cheaper midfielder. I don't mind it, but I just go for someone else. I don't think Kudus is the one I would go for. 80 likes. Thank you very much for liking the stream. We are on 85. We're on 85 likes. We're 15 likes away from the stream target. Every week we try to hit 100 likes. So if you're watching the stream and you haven't liked, please do drop a like on the stream. If you captain João Pedro tonight and he does not do much, you will have a horrible FPL weekend. That's, I guess, another way you can think about it. Maybe a bit like the Gandhi rule, right? Right. So I've caught up to the chat. We can go back to talking about Konate's injury. Whew. Odds of Dunk playing. I think Dunk will play. It's time for Kwanzaa. I think, for what it's worth, I think Joe Gomez is the one ahead of. By the way, let me just retweet this so that followers will know. But for what it's worth, I think Joe Gomez is ahead of Kwanzaa. Like, Kwanzaa just looks super shaky right now, to be honest. Do you think Salah disappointment on his contract will affect his performance this game week? Missed a penalty on Wednesday. I mean, that's what's going around, right? But we've had this situation before with Salah's contract situation. Like, I don't think it affected him too much, I guess. That's what I would say. Craig says, no love for Joe Gomez. Anti-love. Anti-love. Anti-love is hate then. No love for Joe Gomez. Right, I'm going to leave it on this screen for a while so that people who are watching can catch up to the news. But that is huge. That is huge. Like, what would I even do with my team? You gotta have a think about that. 6 weeks, basically. 5 to 6 weeks is basically the whole of December. He's gonna be back in 2025. I don't know. Now I look at the Liverpool defense and I think maybe it's not one that I want to go for. Gameweek 15. I mean, who would I go for now? Should I double up on the Brighton defense? Double Brighton defense. Go for Van Heck. Sorry, view full fixtures. Yeah, I mean, double Brighton defense. Do I do that? Man, it's I'm gonna have to have a longer think about it for sure. But who are you guys thinking now? Insane. Want to replace Foden, Saka or Palmer? I would have to say Palmer because I'm captaining Palmer this week. But I don't think you can go wrong. Either ways, I think longer term you will want both of them. Right, I'm going to use a washroom for a bit. I'll be back. Let me just switch it to the screen. Just give me a moment. I will be back. All right, we are back. We are back. Captaining Visa. Definitely a bigger differential than whoever is in the captaincy poll that I have. That would definitely be a very big differential. I don't think I will go there though. Yep. Who is the top long-term replacement for Konate below 5.4? Like the sad thing is that I really wanted Konate. Like now I need to reassess how good the Liverpool defense is without Konate. Like would I be happy to go for the Liverpool defense if it was, I don't know, Robertson and Trent? Because Tsimikas is out now as well. So it's going to be Robertson and Trent. And then Van Dijk and one of Gomez or Kwanzaa. Like, do I think that's going to be stable enough? I mean, there's obviously gains to be made, right? Because either one of Kwanzaa or Gomez, they're really cheap. Like, they're really cheap. Like, which... Let me just have a look. Like, Kwanzaa is 3.9. 3.9. Joe Gomez. Okay, it's a little bit more expensive at 4.8. For what it's worth, I think Gomez is the one that comes in. I don't know. I have to reassess. But if not, I think for now, if you don't have Verbruggen, I'll go for... I wish I didn't have Verbruggen, if I'm honest. I wish I didn't have Verbruggen, so I could have gone for a Brighton defender. But the fact is that I now have him, so I have to go for another defender. Can we make 100 likes? We are on 96 likes. We're 96 likes. If you guys, there's about almost 200 of you guys watching. If you guys can just help me out and drop a like, we're gonna hit the like target. Going for a magic act. Captain Cunha, nah, probably wouldn't do that. Should I start Robinson or Dunk? I would start Dunk. Play one of either Vissa, Wood, João Pedro, or Welbeck. Wow. Those are, I mean, one of either. Well, in what context? Because you wouldn't have all four of them. Like, in what context? Tommy says, don't think I would go Liverpool defense right now. Yeah, I mean, definitely have to rethink that. I'm not sure if I'm confident of the Liverpool defense without Konate. In what order would you start Lewis, Greaves, and Konza? Choosing the best of the worst. Lewis, Greaves, and Konza. Man. Where do I even... Oh. For what it's worth, I don't think any keep a clean sheet. I think I will go Lewis, then Konza, then Greaves, like in that order. Thank you all for helping us to hit the 100 like target. We are on 116 likes. Wow, we smashed it. Thank you guys. We're gonna go on for another half an hour. So if you guys are liking the stream, I hope you are. But we have another half an hour to go. This might be Liverpool's downfall. Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good. It's not looking good for the Liverpool defense. How long will Konate be out for? Konate will be out for 5 to 6 weeks through injury. 5 to 6 weeks. Johnny, that is a very, very good team. Fernandes, Palmer, Saka, Salah, Palmer, Cunha, João Pedro. You have 7 there. Who's the last one that you've benched already? Like, if you can start all of these 7 attackers, play them. Play Bruno or Odegaard. I play both. Ed says, just tuning in, what's the reason for Palmer captain? I mean, lots of reasons, right? Comparing him to Saka, Palmer's playing at home. Has he had a rest? Palmer's had a rest as compared to other players like Salah, for example. What else? Right, Aston Villa just played midweek. Right, I think they could be. I mean, also with the play style that Aston Villa have adopted in the past few games, they can be gotten at the back. Right, they can be gotten at the back. Chasing rank, so going João Pedro captaincy. Like, for those of you chasing rank, chasing mini league, go different. I don't mind it at all. Neto and Bowen, who do I start? Well, the thing with Neto is that it seems he will be back this week. That's what we're hearing from Maresca. So Neto, Bowen, who else is in your team? If it's between the two of them, I think I would go Neto. I do think Neto will start though. Do you still rate Luka Dean as an option to have next week? The squad depth to rotate him with Liverpool away. The thing with Luka Dean is that what happened in Game Week 12 could happen in any given game week that he was benched. Like, it could happen in any given game week. If Isak and Cunha need to decide who to play as a third striker between Vissa, Wood, João Pedro, or Welbeck. Then who is the exit? If you have Isak and Cunha, I don't really understand this. Means you are buying either one of Wood, Vissa, João Pedro, or Welbeck? I don't imagine you have all of the rest of them. If you are buying one though, then it will have to be João Pedro, right? Start Greaves or Mikalenko. Don't think either keep a clean sheet, but probably Mikalenko, slightly more attacking. Fabianski or Sanchez to play? I would start Sanchez. Wood is the missing one. So Fernandes, Mbumo, Saka, Palmer, Saka, Salah, Palmer, Cunha, João Pedro, Wood, bench one. Is this is this one of the questions asked just now? It's exactly the same. Like, okay, if I have to choose, you see, the thing is, all of them are penalty takers. All of them are penalty takers. Fernandes, Mbumo, Saka, Palmer, Salah, Cunha, João Pedro, Chris Wood, all of them are penalty takers. I can't even use that to differentiate. Insane. I think it's gonna be. I mean, whichever one I say is gonna sound crazy, right? All right, I'll narrow it down one by one. I think the premiums I'm definitely not benching. So it's Saka, Salah, Palmer. I definitely will not bench. Up front, João Pedro definitely will start for me if I had him. Cunha, same for him as well. Chris Wood has just too good of a fixture. And then Boomer, I think the only one that I'm, I guess, not super confident of is Fernandes. Despite how expensive he is, seems like he's been playing deeper. So it could sound crazy that you bench Fernandes against Everton, but you look at the other players you have, like all of them are ridiculous. Who is the best defender below 5.5? I think if I'm buying one this week, I go for a Brighton defender. And Bumo captain, he is a differential. 20% of people are going for differentials. Like if you look at the poll, like this is the week to go for a differential if you want to. All right, some of you guys are asking for price rises or price changes. I think one of the websites that I really want to recommend is let me just swap it back to this first. So one of the websites I really want to recommend is Live FPL. I actually want to show you guys one of the, I don't know, revelations, if you would call it, that Live FPL has had, because recently he's been nailing the nailing the predictions. Let me just right. So this is one of the replies that I had to his tweets. Like I just felt like he cracked the price change algorithm. So basically, he tested a hypothesis. Like this is gonna sound geeky a little bit, but bear with me. But basically, he had a bit of a theory, based off of price changes, and he discovered that it worked. So basically, the theory, like I'm not gonna bore you guys with the details of the thread, but basically, what it was trying to say is, firstly, price changes work in two ways. Basically, for the first fall, you need to lose a fixed number of transfers. So a fixed number of people have to transfer this player out. That's the first fall. And that one is easier than the second one, which is what would cause the next drop. So the next drop would be if the player is at or below his starting price. You need to get a fall, he needs to lose a percentage of his ownership. And that really depends on how highly owned the player is. So it kind of explains, and that's why he used it for the Haaland price change theory, because basically what it meant was that it's easy to fall the first time, but despite how many transfers out for Haaland, he still does not fall until after the deadline, because after the deadline, it would be his first fall, considered the first fall for the next deadline already. And that one is easier because you just need a fixed number of transfers out for him. So Live FPL have kind of figured it out, and recently for their price changes, it's been very, very gotta get the ads out of the way, but it's been very, very accurate, right? So how you can read this is basically players who have already reached their target are predicted to rise tonight, but now that it's the deadline, I guess you can say after the deadline. So these are the predicted rises: Mazraoui, Van Dijk, Onana, Aid Nuri, and Ashley Young. And then loads of players are predicted to fall after the deadline. And it would make sense to see Haaland here because he's transferred out so much. He's going to be very high in terms of percentage to fall in price after the deadline. So head over to, this is not a plug, this is not sponsored or anything. Like I just think he cracked the code on price changes. So I'm monitoring price changes a lot on livefpl.net. So go and check out the website. And I think that one has, for now, the most accurate price changes. So I went on a bit on a ramble, but hopefully it helps you guys in terms of price changes because that's gonna impact a lot of the decisions that you make moving forward. All right. Is Bruno good for the long run since he's playing deep? I don't think I would go for Bruno next week. Like once next week comes around, I think you can sell Bruno already. But you take a -4 on Konate, not this week, I think. I don't think defensive transfers are a must to make unless you don't have any other playing defenders. Then maybe you just bring a Brighton defender in for him. Because in that case, it'd be a -2, right? If you don't have any other playing defenders. Off topic, but starting Rodgers or Fernandes next game week. Next game week, I think you would start Rodgers, right? But I mean, Fernandes is so expensive. Brentford is a great fixture for Rodgers, but Fernandes is pretty much, I don't know, 8 million. I think you sell him next week, to be honest. What about Timber? I don't mind Timber. I don't mind doubling up on the Arsenal defense with either one of Saliba or Timber. I'm assuming that you already have Gabriel, that is. Anyone wondering what the mystery chip will be? Unlimited budget. So basically limitless is what you're thinking. I think it could be a variety of different options, to be fair. I think it could be even double captaincy in terms of you getting double the points for your captain as well as your vice captain. I think it could even work that way. Would João Pedro Cunha select one for captain? If it's among those three, I'd actually say Cunha because I know he's going to play 90 minutes. But I know not a lot of people would think that way. I think the attractive one is João Pedro, right? He's the flavor of the month, I guess. Nice to see you, Nicholas. Welcome to the stream. Sell Rodgers and Smith Rowe for who? I don't think it's necessary to sell. Like, I would really only sell both of them this week for Saka. Like, who else would you bring them in for? Sorry, who else would you bring in for them? Thinking Mitoma captain over Salah. Surely not. Surely not. Should I do Wood to João Pedro for one free transfer? I'm not keen on that move at all because I think Wood will do equally well. Does Alisson start? It seems like he's back in the squad already, so I think he should start, but I think the performances of Kelleher have been really, really good, so I wouldn't be surprised if they give him a couple more games and see what happens. But my guess is once Alisson is fit, he's still first choice. As Konate is going down, is it worth doing a -4 for him? I have Gabriel, Greaves, Mikalenko, Konate, and Lewis. Gabriel and Mikalenko, Konate, Lewis, and Greaves. I think I actually would take a -4 in that case. Like, a lot of your defenders aren't having ideal fixtures. I think I take a -4 and replace him with someone like Van Heck or Lewis Dunk. Konate replacement. I like Brighton defenders right now. Who will be your captain? Cole Palmer for me. Cunha captain a good choice or not? I would captain Cunha ahead of João Pedro and Mbumo. But I would also captain the premiums ahead of all of them. All right, I got to speed through the questions. There's quite a bit. Mm, Bumo hasn't blanked at home, up against a managerless Leicester. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that Mbumo does well. It wouldn't surprise me. It's just that I wouldn't be comfortable banking on it this week after the recent performances from him. Should I sell Rogers to Mitoma? I think I still prefer either one of João Pedro or Danny Welbeck up front. I'm not super keen on Mitoma for the price that we're paying for him. Not super keen on that. Want a midfielder for 2 weeks under 7 million? How about a punt on Eze? If not him, then who? Under 7 million. I think that's the issue, right? There's really not a lot of good options. Under 7 million. I don't even think you would go for Brennan Johnson again, right? I mean, Brennan Johnson, Mitoma, like honestly, even Garnacho, for example, like none of these options really stand out to me. Like Rashford, like really not great, really not great. So I don't even think that I'd be keen on them. Brennan Johnson, I mean, it's a mixed bag. That's the issue right now, I think. That there's not a lot of good players to buy that are cheap in the midfield. In the forward positions, if I could, I want 4 to 5 of the forwards. So that's just the situation that we have. My premiums are Haaland, Palmer, and Saka. Should I transfer out Haaland and Semenyo for Salah and Cunha? It would be a -8. I want to say Haaland and Semenyo out for Salah and Cunha. Who's the forward you're taking out? Like, I need to know who that is. Bruno to Saka this week with one free transfer, or wait till next week. I have 0.1 million in the bank extra in case he rises in price. You know what? I think I might be tempted to make that move this week. I would be tempted to make that move this week, but I can understand if you delay it as well, right? It's just personally, I think looking at how Bruno is playing and how deep he is, if he plays that same role against Everton, that's not going to be ideal. I guess it depends on your expectation of how Bruno is going to set up in the Everton game. Can you please confirm if Dunk is nil? I can't know if Dunk is definitely going to play, but he's back in training. He is back fit. Whether he starts this week or next week, I can't be sure. But at least for the longer term, I think he should be fine. Who to sell first, McNeil or Madueke? I think McNeil, right? I think it's McNeil that you sell first. Should I sell Vardiol, Strand Larson, and Brennan Johnson for 8 Nuri, João Pedro, and Saka for a -4? I would, I think I would. But 8 Nuri, I actually prefer a Brighton defender in place of 8 Nuri, and it's cheaper as well. Eze back in my squad again for Mbumo. I mean, have we not learned with the Eze lessons at the start? Like, okay, the thing with Eze is that Oliver Glasner already said that his minutes have to be managed because he's just come back from injury. His minutes will definitely be managed, is even in the codes. So will you be happy taking Eze knowing that his minutes are going to be managed? Andrea says, Hub is giving me 100% rating for Gameweek 16. Very, very nice. Very nice. Is Dunk worth waiting for that 0.2 price difference with Van Heck? Depends how tight you are for budget, I guess. I guess in terms of goal threat, definitely Dunk is the one with better goal threat. But if I urgently need one this week, I think I'd be more comfortable buying Van Heck. Because I can't tell for sure if Dunk is going to start. My guess is he will, but I can't tell for sure. Eze pass fit, got Newcastle at home this week, then Ipswich. Good for 2 weeks, don't you think? Like, the thing is minutes, right? How many minutes is he going to get? If he's going to get 90 minutes in both games, fair enough, but I don't think that's going to happen. Konate is injured. Yes, Konate is injured, unfortunately. There's 245 of you guys. Thank you all for tuning in on a Friday night. One of the best turnouts we've had on Friday. So thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already and you're watching the stream, could you do me a favor? We are 10 subscribers away from 10,200 subscribers. We are 10 subscribers away from that. So if just 10 of you could help me out, that would be amazing. Best three defenders I would go for. Like, if I was buying one this week, if I'm not double up on Arsenal defense, it would be an Arsenal defender first. If not, it would be a Brighton defender. And then after that, I think it's the pick of the bunch. Like, who would you prefer? Levi Colwell? Does Levi Colwell speak out to some of you guys? Garnacho to Saka for a -4. Garnacho to Saka for a -4. I think longer term you would still have Saka ahead of Garnacho for sure. So I think I would do it. I think I would, but it's just that Garnacho has a good fixture. So for what it's worth, he did play midweek. So maybe he doesn't get 90 minutes. Maybe I prefer to play Saka in that case. Who do you think is the best Brighton defender? Don't take price into account. I think the best Brighton defender to own, if he starts week in, week out, is actually Kadioglu, but he's not fit right now. So then you have to look for alternatives, right? So then it'd be either one of the more nailed ones, which is not Estupiñán. I think more nailed would be Dunk or Van Heck. And between the two, goal threat wise, I prefer Dunk. So because of that, I think Dunk for now seems like the best one to go for. The only issue is I can't nail his minutes. That's the only issue. Ray says, Strand Larsen to Cunha for a -4. I also sold Dominic Calvert-Lewin for João Pedro. I guess you could justify that as correcting a move that you made earlier. And I do think like Cunha is worth the extra money. It's just, I mean, there's no game week that move is going to look good. But then again, I think Cunha moving forward is still much better than Strand Larsen, so I don't mind the -4 for that. Hopefully, Eze's fitness is back up to speed just as Mbumo's fixtures go downhill. Yeah, I think that would be very handy for those of you looking for a straight swap from Mbumo to Eze. But Crystal Palace attacking though, like, do you trust them? Benjamin says, do you have a day job? Yes, unfortunately I do. It's precisely why I wasn't able to upload as many videos this week as I wanted to. But I mean, sometimes work just gets in the way, right? So I think content will be back for next week. So because work is, it was busy for this week, but I think next week should be fine. So hopefully I'll be able to put out more videos next week. But thank you for bearing with the lack of content this week. Play Vandenberg or Vardiol? Vandenberg. Who should I start? Strand Larsen or Bruno Fernandes? Haaland and Foden out for João Pedro and Saka for a -4. Don't have Salah yet. I would do that. Pedro and Saka for a -4. I would do that. Brennan Johnson or Dominic Solanke? Generally, I would say start the more expensive player, but Dominic Solanke doesn't feel like he's getting a lot of chances, to be honest. Are you really going for Captain Palmer? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Is it that hard to believe? We've had 700 votes now, and 43% is still on Salah. I think it's incredible because we had 80 votes earlier and it was still 43% on Salah. But very, very interesting. Like, a lot of people still favor the Salah captaincy. I can understand that as well. I can understand that. Can Bowen be an ideal replacement for Mbumo given the West Ham fixtures? There are no any better midfielders. I guess what I mean is there's not any better midfielders cheaper than Mbumo and can't afford to buy expensive ones. I mean, I just don't know if I can trust the West Ham attack is the honest answer. That is my honest answer. I mean, Leicester, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brighton, Southampton. The honest answer is I don't know if I can trust the West Ham attack. That's the thing. But the fixtures are there. As you have pointed out, the fixtures are there. So, it is what it is. I don't mind it as an option. I'll probably rethink about it next week, but I don't think much will change. Who will replace Konate at Liverpool? My guess is Joe Gomez. That's my guess. Pedro or Cunha? Who has a good entry point this week? Cunha, next entry point, game week 16. I'll be honest, I think this week is not a bad entry point for Cunha as well. Like, Bournemouth are honestly not that good away from home. So I think both are pretty good in terms of entry points for this week. Buy Evan Nilsson or Vissa. I think longer term, I prefer Evan Nilsson's fixtures. Bench Rodgers or Raul Jimenez. Rodgers, because I think Raul Jimenez is on penalties, but Rodgers isn't. Do you think Smith Rowe Rodgers will drop in price? Looking at the live FPL website, it seems like Rodgers is going to drop in price after the deadline. So Smith Rowe is also reaching there, but Rodgers is closer to a drop. Does your future wife play FPL? It's a very interesting question. She does. I would say largely because she supports the fact that I'm a content creator, but also I think overall she has come to enjoy the game as well. Right? We watch the football games together, so I think I would like to say that she enjoys playing the game too, or at least I hope that's the case. I can ask her later. Vandenberg or Rodgers? Play the attacker, so I play Rodgers. Thoughts on João Pedro as a captain? He's a differential, but I wouldn't put you off it if you want to go there. Craig says, no excuses. We need content. We are content-eating animals. I'll get the content out for you next week. Hopefully, we'll have enough time for that. Mbumo is playing a managerless Leicester. Should we captain him? He's one of those differentials, right? Who to start? Odegaard, Isak, Bruno. 2 out of 3. It has to be Isak on penalties. And I want to say Bruno as well. I don't think... But Odegaard has the off chance of taking penalties, right? That one's really tricky. Whoever I say I'm gonna get, I'm just it's gonna sound bad. Can you explain your reasoning for captaining Palmer over all the other options this week? All right. So, firstly, home fixture. I think I've said this a couple of times, but home fixture, as compared to Saka, who has an away fixture, then Palmer has a full rest midweek, where Salah hasn't. And then in terms of opponents, like you can say Man City is a good fixture for Salah, but I would think that Aston Villa could be gotten at as well, and they've also played midweek in the Champions League. So my guess is they'd be more fatigued as well. My prediction for the Aston Villa Chelsea game is a high scoring one. I don't think it would be, kind of very cagey. 11 more likes for 150. Can we get there? Oh, we're 10 likes away from 150 likes. Incredible. If you guys could help me get there, that would be quite insane on a Friday deadline as well. And thank you all for, I think we've just hit, let me just have a look. Yes, we've just hit 10,200 subscribers. So thank you all so much for the support. I really appreciate that. Benjamin says, is your wife ranked higher than you? Let me have a look at the mini league. I think she's 20 points lower than me. Let me just have a look. We had a discussion on this a couple of days ago. Right, she's at 722. 722. So I am 25 points ahead of her, but I think she'll be catching up soon for sure. She's a good FPL manager, I have to say. Yep, Konate out for 6 weeks. Okay, looking to sell Rogers since he will drop in price. Who to get to replace him around the similar price? I mean, I don't think that would be a reason to sell him though. Like the next few fixtures are actually good for Rogers. It's Brentford at home, Southampton at home, Nottingham Forest away. Like, I don't think him dropping in price should be the reason to sell him. It should be that you don't think he's a good option for the next few, which I actually don't think so. I think he is a good option. Craig says, future wife might say she likes FPL now. Wait until she is your actual wife and see if she likes FPL then. We'll come back to this. We'll come back to this. FPL Wave says, shout out to my 6-year-old son, Henry, who made me subscribe. Well, shout out to Henry. Shout out to Henry. Thank you very much, Henry. So, Sonny or Saka? Buying one this week has to be Saka, right? Even captaining one this week also has to be Saka. Son captain, I wouldn't go there. Greaves or Mikalenko, who to start or bench? I would start Greaves ahead of Mikalenko. Lately, Palmer has been dropping deeper in midfield. Wasn't like that before. Fair enough. What would be your best midfield? Playing without Haaland and Salah, so go all out with the price. Best midfield, Palmer, Saka. This week, I would have Mbumo as well. If you have no issues with money, I would want Salah as well. But you're going without Salah and Haaland. Then I would assume you would have Bruno Fernandes as well. Aside from that, I would really want like the slightly more expensive forwards as well. Like I would have Jackson instead of Isak if I could reverse the move I did last week. But it is what it is, right? It is what it is. Jan says, your wife is ranked higher than me. Long season to go, my friend. Long season to go. Would you still captain Palmer if you had Jackson? I don't know if I've overcommitted on Chelsea. I think it comes down to the same question. Like, I guess you wouldn't want to go too heavy, but I would just say, who do you think is the best captain option? If you still think that Palmer is, then I don't think having Jackson up front is going to change my mind too much. Who is the best option instead of Konate? This week, I think you can go for a double up on the Arsenal defense if you don't have already. In Timber, Saliba. If not, I think the Brighton defense, Dunk, Van Heck, all fair enough. Chewy FPL, nice to see you in the chat. So torn on captaincy at the moment, stuck between Salah, Saka, and Palmer. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. For me right now, it's on Palmer, but I think it's less of a decision for me than it is for those with Saka. 2 hours to the deadline. Yep, we are 2 hours to the deadline. All right, so that also brings me to the end of my stream. Thank you all of you guys for tuning in. We're going to call it a day now. We've streamed for about 2 hours. I will get the issue with the stream fixed because once in a while I tend to lag. So I'll fix that out for the next stream. Thank you all for bearing with me for that. But if not, I think we gotta call it a day. It's getting late as well. I'll be hopping on over to the Discord for the members if you are there. I'll find you there. If not, thank you guys for watching the Gameweek 13 deadline stream, listening to me ramble. Apologize again for the lack of content, but it will be back from next week onwards. So keep a lookout for that. All the best for Gameweek 13. Captaincy wise, I would say don't think too hard. If you want to go different, this is the week to do so. If not, all the best. I hope you get green arrows. I hope I get green arrows as well. Captaincy is likely going to be on Palmer. I'll post my final team on Instagram, on the socials as usual. And I'll catch you guys in the Game Week 14 content coming very, very soon. Bye-bye.